Yeah, it's really nice to meet you guys. I've heard a lot about you.
Yeah, likewise. It's funny because like we've been talking about collabing, but it wasn't until DeFi Advisor was like, "Yo, why don't they collab?" And then and then this came about, and now we have a DeFi happy hour.
No, yeah, it's actually a really brilliant idea. I don't know why. I don't know if you guys reached out, but I know we didn't reach out. It was just like, well, we should do that, but we never like got around to it.
Honestly, it makes sense because I think there's such a vacancy of quality content within DeFi, especially. I feel like NFTs get a lot of love, DAOs get a lot of love, Web3 gets a lot of love, but the only time you really hear about DeFi is if something bad happens.
Exactly.
like it's not right. It's just, I mean, this is a result of an impression-driven um, economy. It's like people only hear about shit when bad happens, but there's a lot of interesting developments happening, if you just look hard enough. So, and that's like with the whole point of Kingmaker and Flywheel is to highlight those developments.
No, yeah, like 100%. Like, there's a lot of podcasts that talk about Ethereum staking and the progress on that, and the overall like what's happening in the like crypto markets. But like you and me are the only like podcasts, at least that I know of. Like, of course, I don't listen to too many like DeFi podcasts, but like that actually cover like DeFi itself, like it like intensely, not only like when it's bad, like you said.
Yeah, and not just DeFi, but like our corner of DeFi, our corner of the flywheel, which are these protocols that are thinking long term and that are thinking of, okay, like if we were to build a financial system from first principles on chain, what it would look like. And I think like that's what Curve did, that's what Convex did when they like analyzed Curve and built Convex, and that's definitely what like Frax is doing.
No, yeah, no, yeah, I love Frax. Ever since had the chance to talk to Sam in that interview, it's been amazing to watch their progress ever since. They have so many smart people like working and supporting them. It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane the support, and it's insane how still like small the core team is. Like I still call them core
Yeah.
team. I still call them SEAL Team 6 because they're just like this like elite unit. It looks like we have a DeFi advisor joining us. He's
No, yeah, he joined. I see him there now.
Yeah. Can I make him a host? Oh, he's just connecting right now. I'm excited. I'm personally a huge fan of DeFi Advisor. I'm a huge like his daily roundups are just yeah, they give me life. And if I ever need to catch up on something, I know DeFi Advisor's there. Hold on. Let me invite him to speak.
Yeah, I'm glad we're finally doing this because I just need honestly more DeFi friends.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. Like, because like I'm sure you understand. Like, you interview like a lot of people, but like at least myself, like, well, I interview like a lot of people, but like they're builders and they're busy all the time.
Yep.
So like, I don't really know too many people like that do DeFi, and like I have my co-host Keith, but even he's busy all the time. So it's like damn, it's like rough out here
Yeah.
to have someone
It's just like
in this
real
niche.
esoteric corner of crypto. It's like it's funny because DeFi is what started all the on-chain activity back in 2020. Without DeFi Summer, nothing else would exist. And it was the first one, and kind of when like everything else became popping, whether it was like NFTs or DAOs, DeFi kind of got like left in the rear view. And part of it's for like good reason. Like he just kind of like saw like the same games being played on like different chains and like all like the farming this and that. But now it's like time for DeFi to get creative again. And I think like the episode yesterday that we released, Kit released with Umami about real yield, like you're seeing this could like I think be a part of like a real resurgence of DeFi. And speaking of which, like we have DeFi advisor.
What's up, guys? What's up?
Oh, it's great to finally meet you. Like it's great to finally talk
A
to you.
legend.
You guys are great, really. I'm so excited about it. I've been thinking about it pretty much ever since the idea came up. And honestly, first of all, like much respect for all you guys for the content. It's amazing for the space. I think it's just different, and it's just exactly the kind of content I think we all need in order to really like bring the real mass adoption, the people who are really going to use this stuff, and not only just be on Binance and FTX and whatever, and okay, let's buy this, let's buy that. Like how do we educate the people on what can we really do here? And I think all the episodes that both you guys at Kingmaker and in Flywheel, for me personally, and it's like pretty much ever since I've started with my this alt account of DeFi Advisor, it's really educating. And you guys are creating amazing content, and much respect for all of you. And I think I really, on this specific matter, I do think I represent the opinion of a lot of people. So, right on.
No, thank you.
Wow, thank you for the kind words. Damn.
Damn, you earned it. You Chads earned it.
No, like thank you, and like I think like all of us play, you know, a little role in, you know, being kind of like, you know, promoting and being being these positive actors in the DeFi ecosystem. Because like I said, like it's easy to like for people to like hate on DeFi, but like to show what's like really going on and to like really pay attention to like the developments, like it takes a patient and keen eye, and I think a lot of it has to do with just DeFi is the hardest to understand out of like, you know, in crypto. It's just, it's not only like you have all the like blockchain stuff, it's like legit finance. And to be honest, like I feel like it was only in DeFi that I truly came to like understand finance and learn about finance, and just like take some time. And a lot of people just don't have the time to learn.
For sure.
Yep. Like if we could squeeze DeFi into a 250 by 250 pixel art, like people would just eat that up all day, but we can't because shit's complicated.
Shit is complicated. Yeah, that is true.
No, yeah, like it's complicated, but at the same time, like I don't know if you guys ever try. I'm pretty sure all of you guys try to talk about DeFi or like crypto to like outside people. It's really hard to get someone past like the initial like barrier.
Yeah,
it's hard to get them past like the first two sentences, like honestly, like, and that's not their fault. That's not anyone's fault. That's why like when I talk about DeFi, I'm always slow and very cautious. I'm always like, hey, did you understand that? Like, let me like, I'm always pausing, make sure like they understand what's going on. I even do it with myself because, and I'm not, and like personally, when I'm trying to like understand a new concept, I'm like not afraid to ask questions because all this stuff is so new and it evolves so fast that, you know, like I kind of just have the, you know, the idea that no one really knows what's going on. No one really has the full picture. People just have kind of like parts of the picture. And it's like, you know, I think like one thing we're trying to do at Flywheel, me and Kiet, is like connect different pieces of the picture, but connect them from the perspective of Frax and like how, you know, Frax overall plays in, you know, its overall role in the system.
I think you're doing a good job at it. And for sure, I do think that even that, like what you said about finance right now, I'm like experiencing it myself these past 2 years, because I started following crypto around the DeFi summer of 2020. And honestly, I didn't know, I knew nothing about nothing. You know, like I didn't have any idea of finance whatsoever. I didn't even understand how much does it matter for my everyday life as a human being. Like I was extremely disconnected about all of this point of view. And like you said earlier, you learn it as you go, and especially as you start trying things. And I will say that I think that for all of us content creators, one of the biggest challenges I think that we should look at is really how do we simplify it? Because I will tell you this, your content is amazing, but I still think that like nerds like me can start understanding that. Yeah, like experienced guys like you already understand it, but the normal Joe, or however you call it, he still doesn't get it. You know, it's still not simple enough. For example, what you started doing with Stable Claire, this is important stuff. Like, how do you really start educating in little pieces? Like, how do you really start planting these small ideas to the normal people, to the normies. You know?
No, I couldn't agree more. I was actually on the phone with Claire working on this the script for the next Stable Claire episode, which is going to be all about Tornado and USDC and all the Frax FUD surrounding it and kind of like shooting down all the FUD surrounding that. And like I couldn't agree more. There's like different parts of I guess of like the DeFi stack and like different experience levels. And like I think me and Kiet, like our podcast is directed more towards the intermediate to advanced parts of the stack because like we don't want to like water down the conversation and we kind of just let our conversations go. And I think that's why like our content has been so fire since we launched. But
and it's great. Sorry to interrupt, but and it's great. I just feel like you can do other stuff as well. Like because listening to basic ideas, if I can listen to you guys, like simply explain it. What is Frax basically? What is the Frax base pool? Like the basic concept, the ones that the normal viewers maybe don't care about and won't listen. But I think that like 200 days later, you will have 50K more subscribers because of it.
Yeah, and that's why that's one of the reasons why like I've been pushing for Stable Claire. It's because exactly what you said, because the vast majority of people are novices, are beginners, and it is really intimidating. Like if you like most people come and listen to my podcast and they have they probably understand like very little of it. They don't understand like 90% of it. And so like it is very important we give people like the foundational tools and like the proper foundation to begin to understand it. And that like comes down to breaking things in like what is a stable coin? What is collateral? What it all like what's a centralized stable coin? Like all these like little things that we may like don't think twice about because we're in DeFi. But like these nuances need to be explained. Like I think like people that are experienced not just in DeFi but in crypto in general, they take for granted the nuances they understand. Like for example, we can like understand like which chains are like there's actually stuff happening on it, and other chains are like just like pure like marketing pushing them. Like we see what's real, but most people can't discern between that. Most people are just like living their own lives, and so how do you get? So like the real question is like how do you get like bite-sized information that's easy to understand and easy for people to digest. And like the thing is like how I view just like learning anything in general, it's like they might not like completely understand the first time. Maybe it's like the first time they're hearing a concept about like a stable coin, but they're going to hear stablecoin again, and they're going to hear stablecoin again, and it may be on the news, or maybe a friend hears about it, and they're going to think about like, oh, I heard it first on like Stable Claire. Oh, I heard it first on a different piece of content. So it's all about that repeat, hearing that repetition and just like hearing something over and over again until you get it.
Definitely. I remember when I was starting, in Bankless was still a small channel. They had like 1,400 subscribers or something like that. And one time David said, like, if you really want to understand it, you should just bang your head into it until you get it. And after a while it worked.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I started out with Bankless as well, and like, I don't know, like my experience when I first started out in DeFi is that like there were some channels where they went over like basic, but like to actually be good at DeFi and good at what you're doing, like I felt like there was a lot of like self-teaching that I had to do myself. At least that's how it felt like for me.
I really liked the channels that had like a chalkboard or a whiteboard that explained like I remember in 2020 when I was like just learning about DeFi, like how AMMs worked and how synthetics worked and this and that. Like I think it was Thematics was one of them, and there were like a few other channels that just like broke things down. I mean, it took me like honestly, it took a lot of like repeat watching. Like I think that's it's underrated, just like watching things twice and reading things twice, like to like fully understand it and then actually like using it and then actually like see. It's funny because like all we're doing is really like clicking buttons. that's all we're doing. If you want to take it down, but it's just like when you click the buttons and just like all this and that, and just, DeFi is a trip.
Yeah, I was actually talking with Dave just yesterday about this and how we kind of found our lane and like our niche in the DeFi spaces. We really target the intermediate to advanced, because I want to make content and also to consume content that are for the advanced side. And like Alinho, is that how I pronounce your name?
It's not a real word. You could just call me Ale, just to make your life
Okay,
simple.
Ale. Perfect. Yeah, like Ale said, like once you kind of passes that beginner training wheels stuff, like you go from tricycle to doing a wheelie on like a 200cc motorcycle on the freeway with no one's help.
It happens fast.
It happens so fast, right? And then like I think we need that intermediate step. Like I hear what DeFi advisor is saying. That's why we have Stable Claire. But like I was very glad that Dave suggested we have almost like a separate content piece for the beginners, so that we don't dilute what we're doing. Because I think the thing we cover is highly critical for those who's ready to take it to the next level.
For sure. And yesterday's episode was also really great. Really great.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun one. It's funny because like I think in our DeFi circles, like real yield has been around for like several weeks, but that trend hasn't really, even gone through like the crypto mainstream yet. Like people really have like the mainstream crypto circles yet. But it seems like the perfect storm with like, as like a kind of reaction to like the Ohm fork madness. And then it's like, okay, how are we sustainable real yield? And then combined with this, institutional, what I call bridge fund narrative coming about, you combine the two. And if like all the stars align, like it could, who knows, like it could spark like a bunch of just capital flooding the chain, and really puts Arbitrum in a great position, to be honest. Like Arbitrum's looking real good right now.
No, yeah, Arbitrum has so many amazing projects, and I was lucky to talk to some of them. They're really smart. Umami, Dopex, all these people have amazing builders. X from GMX,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
like
Vesta. Mm-hmm.
Vesta as well. I need to do an interview with them.
Yeah, Ale, you have amazing. Yeah, really. I don't know how you do it, but you really are able to spot, like, in my opinion, the most interesting ones. And it's like, if he's interesting, he's coming to Kingmaker.
Yeah, Ale,
But
I was gonna ask, how'd you start Kingmaker? Like, what was the inspiration behind it?
I actually got kind of lucky. So Keith been wanting to do a podcast, but he didn't want to do it on his own because he's really older and he wanted like someone to like kind of like bring like a different aspect in DeFi from a different point of view. He saw that I was active in the CVX Discord, and then he hit me up and gave me the opportunity, and I kind of just took a chance, and I just said like fuck it, and then I just went for it. I started out as an introvert, so like if you hear like the beginning episode that said a lot or I stuttered a lot, etc., just because like I wasn't like used to talking to the phone or like to a microphone yet.
Yeah, and then I guess you came out of your shell a little bit, which is good. Like, a little personal growth. We all love personal growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
So I
yeah,
guess
but
how has like how do you think the Kingmaker podcast has evolved, like from you started to like where it is now? Because you guys have like phenomenal interviews and like in a way definitely like served as a model for Flywheel.
thank you. No, yeah, like for a bit, like we were going really fast. Like every day, every week, we are trying to like who next to bring up. Trying to like I guess quote unquote build as fast as possible. Like episodes every week, developing the website. Um, I've kind of taken like a little break these past few weeks, but yeah, like for a while it was like intense. Like trying to like we saw like a momentum going on, and we really try to capitalize on it. We were really lucky to start at the time that we did.
Yeah, catch the wave.
No, yeah. And I'm really lucky that a lot of the builders were really nice and they were willing to come on because I would go on the Discords, I would try to contact them, and most of the time I was lucky enough to get a response. It wasn't until like 10 episodes in when I started having a hard time or like a bad time trying to contact all these different teams.
Yeah, and I think like the most important thing when it comes to podcasting is consistency, like both like consistency and guest consistency and pumping out content and just like, you know, it's like kind of like a pulse. It's a heartbeat. Like, you know, it's like for, you know, our like foundation is like the Flywheel pod. So like once a week, every Thursday, boom, there's a pod, boom, there's a pod. And it's been 10 weeks now since we started. And like, you know, it just, I feel like, you know, it's funny because at Flywheel, we started like right after the whole Luna crash and like in the wake of Luna. And like, I think like the mindset behind it was just like, how can Frax like, you know, recapture the, you know, algo stable, automated stable narrative. And like, that was like the big inspiration behind Flywheel, and just like kind of like fight through the FUD and like show like, you know, show the nuance between stable coins. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far for us as well. Kiet, what do you think?
I agree. I feel like we needed to come in and have a voice for Frax right after the whole UST stuff, because it's so easy and so intellectually lazy to just be like, oh, I'll go stable, bad, right? Like that was too easy of a step for so many people to make. So Dave and I felt like we absolutely needed to jump in and do this for Frax, especially since Frax is so complicated just to begin with.
And we've been talking about doing a podcast for like months before, and like meaning to do it, but it wasn't until that catalyst. I was like, oh shit, we gotta like get this going.
Okay,
I think
I want to.
I was gonna say,
Go ahead, Ali. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's easier to start like a content podcast covering DeFi in the bear markets, because like at the top, like most of the stuff you're talking about is like price, but in the bear market is when you're actually talking about what's being built. You know, all that enthusiasm and hopium kind of drains away, and what you're left with is just the actual facts of what the protocol
real
is.
Yield.
Yeah, real yield.
Back to basics.
No, yeah, but I don't know about you guys.
Go
About
ahead.
My bad. It's just like I wanted your perspective. Like, he made a point. Like in a bear market, there is like more building that you can talk about. But I don't know about you guys. But at least I noticed, at least like the statistics, and then like our side is like the one bad thing about a bear market for content creators is that a lot of people leave during the bear market. So then so like one, and like builders are head down and like building just because there's finally peace and quiet. So like I don't know about you, but I've been having a hard time like getting in contact with like different teams, or like the viewer count has gone down for us ever since the bear market, like truly, like once everyone realized that we were in a bear market. But I don't know about you guys. At least that's how it was for me as we transitioned into the space.
I think for us, you know, we're trying to widen our content. Like we're still true to Frax, and like, you know, that will always be our foundation. But like we're trying to like widen the kind of the perspectives, and like widen like the array of guests that are on, and but still come at it from like a Frax native, DeFi native angle. Like I'm really excited for the guests that we have coming on in the next few weeks. We have some, you know, some bigger names cooking up. And you know, we'll be sure to pick their name about DeFi. I don't want to say who, but I'll like leave that. I'll leave that till the releases. But I'm excited for the guests that are coming up.
Yeah, I think for us, right, Ali, like we kind of started pretty much deep bear, or right at the beginning of the bear. So like we are used to the lower view account and everything else. But aside from that, like we see a lot of growth regardless from like when we had started. So I think there are the folks who are still hanging around, like they're the kind of audience that we want to make content for, right?
Yeah.
That's really the push of our focus here.
And this core audience is really like our backbone. And like this is where like, you know, where your true like supporters are molded.
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask you guys this. Given that there's only 12 people on this, I feel like we could have a real talk. So I'm gonna ask everybody something personal. Where are you currently farming right now?
Ooh.
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now, I am fully in the Frax BP pool, like fully in, and I've only taken a little bit out to go chase that OP on Aave. Just like last week. But that is the antithesis of real yield, because it went from like, you know, 50% all the way down to like 5.5% in less than a week. So
Which one for? Wait for.
Where did you say it was, Kit? Where did you say it was?
I jumped onto Aave and did the optimism, the OP yield farming.
Okay, yeah.
And just
Barry talking about it a lot. I see Barry talking about it.
Yeah, I looped it like 11 times and still complete useless. Freaking like 5.5. I could have just stayed on Frax BP pool and just chill.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
So I want to ask DeFi advisor. Let's start with you. Like, where are you farming right now?
I'm farming in all kinds of places, but for sure I'm focused on either the mainnet or Arbitrum. These are for me by far the places with the most vibrant protocols and most interesting opportunities, and at least in my opinion, the most innovative projects, which are also able to pull some TVL. So, for example, the usual convex curve union, and currently in a concentrator. I have to say that I'm really fascinated with everything that's going on with Aladdin DAO.
yes, for sure.
Also staking some pitch, actually, ever since I saw the episode with you guys and Charlie. That's how I found out about pitch. I even got to talk to him for a short talk, and now even made some connection over there with some dev I've met recently, which that's the fun stuff for me is starting. You're starting to connect to people. You're starting to talk to people who I see these are like the leaders of the new finance world, and I think that I can relate to what Alice said earlier, because I'm pretty sure that I'm older than Keith, Alice Keith. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest one here. Okay, and seeing such young people, smart gigabrains, it fascinates me. Really, it fascinates me, and also holding some DPX locked, PLS, Jones specifically. I think that a lot of fun is gonna still come to the DopeX ecosystem, in my opinion. But that's mostly for me. The current theme for me right now is the concentrator IFO.
Awesome.
Yeah, no,
okay.
Charlie's
Charlie's
I think one of the most underrated founders and builders in the space. He's
brilliant, man.
He's brilliant. He isn't the loudest one on Twitter, but I can guarantee you, like Sam, his head's down in his building, and he's 100% focusing on making pitch the premier DeFi product in the coming months and years. He's thinking, where is the space going? And I'm really excited for what's coming with pitch, and I recommend everyone who's listening who hasn't. We should get Charlie back on, because I feel like pitch has changed a lot in its journey in its direction. But I recommend everyone listening to go listen to our episode with Charlie. You can just see how well spoken he is. You can just see he has the vision and drives to make whatever he's working on succeeding. But anyways, small plug. But what I'm farming, I am I'm very at home on the Frax app. I love that Frax IQ farm. I've been farming that for a while. That's my little degen farm. You can't really go wrong with it. I'm of course farming Frax USDC. I've been farming. I have all these positions locked for years. So I've been chilling at that. To be honest, I'm not that active of a farmer, because I'm very aware of impermanent loss. So I'd rather just if I'm gonna farm something, I'm okay, what's the risk? Is this for a while I was farming Velodrome, caught that wave for a bit, but I recently pulled out of that. It kind of seemed like Barry's threads and stuff, and I'm just maybe we'll see how sustainable Velodrome is. And then what else? I'm a big fan of Uni V3. I guess that's not technically farming, but I had a Lido ETH position open for a bit. Caught that wave, but I recently honestly got out of that. I'm staked in GMX. I got some escrow GMX piling up. But Yeah, no, like I say, like Trax IQ, spotting promising Uni V3 positions in pairs. Talk about real yield, like Uni V3. Those fees
Yep.
are definitely real yield, and it's interesting seeing like all the building that's going to happen on top of Uni V3, like whether it's with Arrakis Finance or like there's this one, and I recommend everyone checking out Panoptic, which is like building an options protocol on top of Uni V3, like using like Uni V3 like LP positions itself, like they themselves are options, and like building smart contracts on top of that. Like I was going through their white paper the other day. I'm like, damn, this is like really cool. It'd be really cool to see what happens out of that. So like, I'm a big fan of Uni V3, to be honest, and just like I think the whole idea of concentrated liquidity is, in terms of real yield, is super sustainable. But yeah, I digress. Yeah, where are you guys? Who's next? Ale, where are you farming?
Yeah, I'll say in a second, but one thing I'll say is that I really need to go listen to your episodes, the one that you mentioned, especially involving Uni. Honestly, I've been slacking with Uni. I don't know. Like when I first got into DeFi, I kind of found it. I don't know. I kind of found it boring, and I just dove straight into Curve and like more complex. Like I thought I saw Curve was so complicated, and then I'm like, you know what? I'll take the challenge, and then I just went straight to Curve, and I never really looked back at Uni. I have to
Nice.
Yeah,
look
no,
back and
they
see
both
like
have their
what they're
merits
doing.
as AMMs, in my opinion. They both have their uses, and both are like good for like certain types of pairings and stuff. I love both. Like Curve has done a really good job of being like the destination for stable swaps, and like there's like one person from I think Electric Capital or like some firm had like a really big thread the other day comparing Uniswap to Curve and like which pairs are for which. Like I think they're both going to be stalwarts in DeFi. It's just like it's going to be interesting to see like how it plays out in the years to come. Like how I view it is like you need like Curve for LPs is passive income, so you could have like a lot of days where it's like not a lot of fees, and then like boom, like there's like a ton of fees one day, and like it's like profitable for LPs, but you just have to be staked for a while. And while Uni is like a lot more dynamic, it's just like like for like LP for for liquidity providers, it's like boom, like it's like consistent yield, especially for those like 1% pairs and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
No, yeah, I get you. Like, I think everything's gonna have its place in DeFi. Like, I don't like. I think everything is gonna have its own like. It's obvious like Uni has its product market fit and Curve because they're still around right after so long, but yeah, like they all have their benefits. To me, I think like I think we're starting to see itself. Like those protocols are starting to specialize into like what they're trying to do, what they're trying to be good at. I've So like I don't know. I didn't like the experience with Uni V3. Like I know you said you're a big proponent of it. Like I haven't used like Gelato, I haven't used Arrakis or like anything built on top of Uni, but like the Uni V3 itself, I used it. I personally did enjoy it, but I'm sure you like it and there's other people that are gonna like it as well. Like
Yeah,
for
I would
their
definitely
reasons.
say like it's a more advanced product, and like if I would say like if Uni could improve, it's definitely not made. It's not like Uni V2 was like perfect for like retail to use. It's like, oh, you just like sit, you park, it's composable. Like the simplicity of Uniswap V2 and like its forks, like it's the reason why it's the most forked protocol in DeFi. But it's funny. I was actually talking the other day with my friend, and I'm just like, automated market makers is like the wrong way to like describe people that LP. They're really automated market takers, because the market makers are the arbitragers like arguing the LP pools, and that's why like most people get wrecked on impermanent loss. But
I don't know if I understand finance enough to fully understand what you've explained, but maybe I listen to the recording.
yeah, no, I'll explain. So like AMMs, like they're automated market makers, and like people that supply LP to like a market maker is like market makers in traditional finance is a person that like sets the regular market. So they're the ones like in an order book, they're the ones like that are like creating like the orders. They're making the orders. So like they're the ones setting like the limit orders at like different like tranches and levels. So those are like the market makers in order books. But in AMMs, it's flipped. It's like the people that are like constantly like taking orders are like
Yeah.
the market
Like a
maker,
decentralized order book.
Yeah, like automated market makers like flip where the market maker is. I'm actually on like centralized exchanges and in order books, the market makers are like already have their orders set. Well, on like AMMs, the market makers are like basically the ones like taking the order. Like they don't have their orders, like they're not LPing the pool. They're the ones like buying and selling because like it's the arbitrageurs that are trying to find equilibrium in the price.
Okay.
Did that make sense? If not, like let me know.
Yeah, I think I get the general point, but still, I have a lot of more finance to understand to really like feel like I'm fluent at it, especially in English, you know.
Yeah.
But,
what's your native language?
Hebrew. I'm from Israel.
Oh, I remember going to Israel on birthright.
When did you? Whenever.
Like it was like a
I saw your last name when you've written something for the Defiant, so I told myself, he's probably Jewish. Yeah,
I have the most Jewish name of all time.
One of them for sure.
Yeah, one of them.
Dave, can I ask Ale something that I'm interested about?
Of course.
Sure, go ahead.
I want to know more about what you guys are doing at Vendor, and now with all the real yield narrative. I personally think that one of the next narratives to really come into like the awareness is the under collateralized loans market, because I really think that the winners in this department will really be like huge players. And I know that I've heard about it because I follow the YetiWap, which is one of the smartest guys on crypto Twitter, at least in my opinion. And I'm definitely looking forward to see what you guys are building there. So if you can say a few words, I'm definitely interested in hearing.
No, yeah, of course. No, yeah, I'm surprised that you brought it up, but no, yeah, so yeah, I don't know if you guys and the Flywheel know about vendor finance, but I'm a part of, sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm a part of the team. I'm in charge of marketing. The vendor finance is going to be launching on Arbitrum, and basically what we're doing is that we're making customizable like tools to make lending kind of like easier, or so you could set up lending the way that you want to with whatever parameters or whatever that you want to do. Is trying to make it like lending really customizable, and like what DeFi Advisor said, like it's customizable in the sense that you can set it up in a multitude of ways. So let's say, for example, you can have specific addresses like allowed to borrow this pool, and only those addresses can like borrow. Or you can set the mint ratio to like, for example, you can set the mint ratio so like you can do under collateralized, but like of course it's up to the lender. And like the lender basically, like what vendor finance is doing is that they're, instead of having the borrower, sorry, I can't pronounce the word, borrowers take the risk. It's the lenders that take the risk. And like that's more or less how we set it up. Just so you have the general idea.
I think it's great. I'm fascinated by it, and I definitely want to see how stuff like that works out, because I think that changing the over collateralized lending industry will definitely flip the game. It will bring a whole new audiences into the game. Because now it really is like if you're going to lend or if you're going to borrow money, you need to have a lot of money. Like a small shrimps, like a lot of us, we don't really do all that stuff. Like we don't feel comfortable enough to do it. You know.
Is vendor doing any of the underwriting, or is it literally up to the lender to decide?
What do you mean by that?
Like, would you guys have like, hey, for these kind of assets, we're going to start with an LTV of 75%. For these assets, it's going to go up to like 95%.
No, so yeah, so good question. So basically, is like the only thing that us as a team we're gonna do is that we're gonna. I think I made this mistake on my own podcast. Like, so like we're gonna set the rules and like what we're gonna allow at launch, like as collateral that can be used or like in the protocol, but everything else is decided by the lender. They decide the LTV, they decide the interest rate, they decide how long the term, because it's fixed term loans, so they can set it for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever they like. It's all up to the lender.
Dude, that's sweet.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So no, that's why I said like the lender takes the risk, because they set it up exactly how they want. So so like they have to calculate basically what they want, and like for example what's the worst that can happen. For example, like ETH skyrockets to 10K and people decide, oh, I'm not paying back my loan. Well, now you have like I don't know, like X thousands of USDC as an example.
Got it. Okay. And do you have any strategy for like the lazy lender, like someone who doesn't want to do anything, just wants to park money and don't deal?
That's great.
Oh, okay. So late.
The
Okay,
lazy
so I get
lender.
you. So that's kind of difficult. I actually haven't thought about that, but I could bring it up on our next meeting. But like at the moment, it's kind of hard for you to have like a lazy lender, like long term, like, because like you have to set up the term for the loan. So as soon as the term is over, like, you know, you have to go reset it up and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like you can only be lazy to like a certain extent, because at some point you have to get back into the protocol and make a new pool.
So you know, like whenever I hear of these type of very customizable kind of tailored products, I always imagine that there's going to be a Yearn like product built on top of it for the lazy lenders. So then, you know, I can select like, hey, I want to target, you know, 10% APY, but I really care about liquidity. So I want 25% of it, you know, longer than 3 months, but 75% available like immediately. And those are like the parameters that I set in terms of risk. And then the protocol, or, you know, the Yearn like protocol would allocate my money for me across all these pools.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. It hasn't even occurred to me someone building on top of us. Like, but like I would welcome it. Like I'm really excited to see what happens. Like I've been away like this past week or two, like that just like IRL stuff like made me busy. But after launch, like I would love to like see like who builds on top of us and who we get in contact with. I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, man, I've learned like from, you know, just watching user adoption. It's like we've come out with, you know, initially Uniswap V2 was complicated, right? Someone like didn't know how to do that before. But once you know it's just 50-50, you get an LP token. And then, hey, out of nowhere, you can put this LP token somewhere else and get more tokens. And users slowly get, you know, more and more accustomed to the complication. But then after a while, there are so many of these Uniswap pools or SushiSwap pools, and then you have to rely on Yearn to do the lazy thing. So I always recognize user adoption as like people are motivated to figure it out, but then there's a point where they just drop off and they just use an aggregator, or they just use some kind of automation tool like Arrakis or Gelato, for example, with Uni V3, right? And it always defaults back to the lazy LPer or the lazy lender. Like
If you just want to
like
like park and forget, like how does VenderFi compare to Fraxland?
Wait, so my bad. I kind of zoned out for a second. I have ADHD, for FYI.
No worry, I do too. Except
So how does Vendor compare to Fraxland? Okay, so like the difference I would say with like Fraxland and Vendor Finance is that Fraxland is going to be oriented around the Frax ecosystem, and like like obviously Frax is going to like benefit the most out of it. For example, their stablecoin is going to have, instead of mainly USDC backing, it's probably going to have loan debt backing it, for as an example. But with Vendor Finance, what we're trying to do is that like we just make the tools available, and we're going to upgrade to make it better and better for both borrower and for the lender. But like we so like the lender still has to come in with capital and like set up the pool and everything, and they are still predominantly going to be the one that benefits. So for example, let's say Fraxland I launch, they're interested in partnering with us. They will come with their pool. They will come with their capital, set up a pool, and then they can start making a market for FPI, Frax, FXX, FPIX. Like they could set up a borrowing market or lending market, and that they're going to be the one that benefits. So like I don't know that necessarily answers the question. Like we as a like protocol is that we're not going to give stable coins. We're not going to do. We're not really like I said. Like there's no token or anything right now. So like there's not going to be any emissions at least at launch. At this point, honestly, almost everything has a token. But I don't know. That's not even in the topic yet. But so yeah, like the lenders more than anything is gonna get like all the benefits, and they're the one they set it up, but they also have to bring in the capital to make the lending market possible, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answers the question.
Is there
It makes sense.
Can I ask another thing? Is there like a minimum amount that you need to lend in order to be able to participate?
No. You can literally come with $100 and make a lending market if you want. Since it's on Arbitrum, it's really cheap.
That's great.
How does it compare? How does vendor finance compare to something like Euler, or EULER? I thought it was Euler, but it's pronounced Euler. I learned.
I actually thought it was pronounced the other way.
Yeah.
I haven't looked too deeply into Euler because like our main competitors are Notional Finance, Yield Protocol, and like others.
Okay.
But from what I understand is oh okay, I'm back. Sorry, my glitched. But from what I understand, you can still get liquidated in that protocol, right?
Yeah.
In vendor finance, you can't get liquidated.
Yeah. I'm looking at your docs and your website. It's like the biggest thing is you can't get liquidated, non-liquidatable, and stuff like that, which is cool.
How does that work?
Could you?
Sorry, two people spoke.
Yeah. How does that work?
Sure. So basically, it's like we're having fixed terms. So like one thing, for example, with Aave is that like, as soon as your collateral gets the health ratio goes like below 1. I think that's how they call it. Yep. That's how you say it. You get liquidated. So like with vendor finance, what we're doing is that so like the borrower can't be liquidated, and that's for a reason. So like if we have a simulation market that we have a simulation documents where we ran simulations like during the bear market, like the remaining like the beginning of the year, and then when we went deep into the bear market, right? And like we saw is like most of the time, like between depending on like your term, like how you set up the pool and everything, like the borrower most of the time, maybe if they were in like an Aave lending, they would have been liquidated. But if they were in vendor finance and like under the parameters and the collateral, as like there's a simulations and we were like testing, but like during our testing, we saw that most of the time, by the time the term was done, they're fine and they won't be liquidated. Or like if they were like, of course we can't get liquidated, but like in our protocol. But I don't know if that makes sense. Like between like the market like correcting itself and like price action and all that stuff, it's fine. But like with us, you don't get liquidated since the lenders set up all the pools the way that they like it. They take the responsibility. So they as soon as if the borrower doesn't pay back their capital and they decide to keep the like what they borrowed, then the lender gets the tokens back.
So
That's
it's like lender first. It's like it's power to the lenders.
Yeah, the lender. Well, borrowers get the benefit that they cannot be liquidated, and they have the choice to return the capital or not. But lenders,
Okay.
Lenders get they get set up the pools as whatever they want. But if the borrower defaults, they get the collateral, but like and that's it. But like they can't the borrowers can't be liquidated. So like they have to make sure that they set up the pool the way that they like it, and they're okay with whatever scenario happens.
Oh, so it's a P2P lending market basically, and the lender sets up the terms, and it finds. Is it P2P? Like then, like for every lender, there's a borrower, and it's not pooled assets, or is it? Am I wrong? Is it like pooled assets and like multiple like borrowers can like go to like one lending market.
No, like yeah. So like if you check some of the UI teasers that I've put in the vendor like Twitter, yeah. So there's gonna be different pools because like we still haven't quite figured out how to do like pull together all the lending. So like right now, let's say you do like USDC to Bitcoin, wrap Bitcoin.
Mhm.
Like the way that we have set up now is that there's different pools that say Frax, Redacted, Umami. Like there's gonna be like different like people that are gonna set up the pools, and you can choose which pool like with the parameters. We don't have it like, how do I say it? Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? It's not like combined yet.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The lending's
So
just
like
go ahead.
so like yeah, so you choose like WBTC to USDC, and then you choose one of the pools with the parameters that you like. Let's say you want to borrow like 95% against your collateral, then you just go choose that pool. And if it's set by Frax, then you're borrowing from the Frax protocol. And if you default, then Frax gets your Bitcoin, as an example.
And
And
so, when you guys think, I was going to ask, like, when do you guys think you're going to launch?
Right now we're doing final testing, and our devs are still like they're testing things and between like the protocol and the UI and all that. So we're not exactly sure, but I can say we're getting closer to launch. I
Yeah,
don't think it'll be too long, but like I don't know how much to say because I'm just in charge of marketing. I'm not the actual dev.
yeah. Things always get pushed back for reasons. Like, nothing's ever really on time.
Yeah, and like one thing to keep in mind is that this is V1, as I'm sure you guys know. Like when builders build something, V1 is usually V2. Is like V2 is how they envision the protocol to be, but V1 is like just like building the foundation, if that makes sense. Like we have like a lot of dreams and like what we want the protocol to be, but we have to set a foundation first before we get there.
Yeah,
For sure.
understood.
I hear you. I mean, I'm still kind of like held up on they don't get liquidated. So I, as a lender, really have no idea if I'm going to get my asset back until the end of the term. And then at the end of the term is when I could liquidate them, but they could have provided only, say, 30% of the loan value, right? So I'll be down 70%. Is that
So
accurate?
yeah, so so I can, if you want, I can send out a tweet to our market simulation report, or like the Twitter thread that I did on the simulations that we ran. But basically, yes. So like they can't be liquidated. So during the whole time, no matter what happens in the market, let's say you have the lending market for a year, the term, they will not get liquidated no matter what happens during the 12 months.
Mm.
But like at the end of the term, if they don't return the capital, then you get their collateral. So usually what makes sense is that people won't return their collateral if their loan is higher than what they borrowed, but let's say their Bitcoin is worth like 10K and they borrowed 1K, then it makes sense for them to return the 1K because they're losing $9,000, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, it's more about like the other side, right? If Bitcoin goes to like 1K, and then you borrow 10K, you pretty much want to just deuces and never show up again. Do you guys have like some kind of credit score, like, oh, this is a bad borrower type of system?
Like I said, like we have the lender sets all the rules, so they could set the rules whatever they want in the way like they can like disable like not like every address besides one. They can do only one address accepted. They could set the parameters to say, let's say if you deposit like Bitcoin, then you can only borrow 13 or 30% of the collateral, or 25. Lender sets all the rules, so they, in exchange for the borrowers never and not getting liquidated, the lenders take the risk, and that way they set up all the rules exactly how they like it. So if they default, they default and they get a quote unquote loss, then it's the lender's risk. But like I said, we ran simulations, and majority of the time, the almost every side's win, and both sides usually win. Like I can send you the report, but
Got it.
yeah, that's my response to that. Sorry,
Super cool, man. No, I like it.
I'm trying to I'm trying to think about what I say, but at the same time, it's like the topic itself is kind of complicated.
Yeah, no,
That makes sense.
lending can go so many different directions, and so like it can easily get as simple or as complicated, as people
Yeah.
choose to go.
For sure. And
No,
I
yeah,
think you
exactly.
explained it well, Alejandro.
Yeah, I
think
feel
you
like
explained it
no, you did a good job in explaining everything, and as time goes on, and as refine your pitch, try different things in it, it will even become like easier to explain and break down.
No, yeah, it's just like no, yeah, it's because like for example, you guys are asking me about the lender's perspective. Is that like I know you guys want me to say numbers that say, for example, like, oh, but what happens if the borrower defaults? But like there's too many variables that can happen. So like for the lender is like they could set the LTV to like 10, 20, 30, 90. Like you do under collateralized. They can blacklist like all the addresses except Frax. Like there's too many variables to see like for me to give like an answer like, oh, you're gonna get wrecked. Like
Yeah.
you get me? Like we have it like highly customizable for a reason, just so like we don't want lenders or borrowers to get wrecked. We want everyone to win, right? We want everyone to be happy and satisfied with our protocol.
Got it.
But like
Yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I'm sorry if there's any other questions. Like of course, like if you want, I can see if I can even get my team like on the podcast if you like. But my bad if I left anything unanswered.
No, not at all.
No, you're
Like,
good. Yeah.
you're good. You're good. Like this, we said, like, this is all part of like, part and parcel of like working with a DeFi protocol and working for a DeFi protocol, trying to explain your case and like explain like its value. Like I've definitely done it before in the past, and like, it's just, it's going to be interesting to see like how vendor evolves in the future, and like when you guys launch, and like how you fit into like all the different money that goes in DeFi.
Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate your answers, Ali. 'Cause I normally am a hard ass anyways when I ask these questions, because I'm more of a shape rotator, and so like I love to just understand, like, because the whenever I think of a lending protocol, like as a lender, this is what I was taught, coming from TradFi side, is as a lender, the best case scenario for you is to get your money back. That is the best case scenario. And if coming from that background, you're like, okay, well, what are some safeguards or precautions around it? But I hear what you're saying about fully unleashing the max customizability for the lender. So you fully underwrote this loan the way you signed up for, and over the course of the time, I hope your simulations and all your back testing was done, in different market regime and not just the bull market. So so you can get kind of both sides of the action. Because if it's in a bull market, I would quite be concerned, because things obviously bounce hard and comes back.
No, yeah.
Like, and the worst thing is, like, if you go, it's hard to back test into like the 2017 2018 era, right? Because stable coins at that time didn't even really pick up. I think USDC was like 2 billion, like something very small. So
Yeah, it barely
where do you,
existed. It was mostly just Tether was the game in town.
exactly, and where do you even go to get the liquidity to pay back your loan if you borrowed USDC, for example, right? And wrap
Yeah.
Bitcoin was not even a real thing yet on ETH back in 2017 2018. So how do you have like bear market data simulation back test to play with? So that's just areas of concern for me.
No, yeah, like I understand like DeFi and like the markets are still new and everything that's going on. And of course, like it depends on how you think of this. Is like, yeah, you could do a shitload of testing, but in the same time, you could think of it from a different perspective. Like, yeah, so like the best case scenario is that you get your loan back in interest, right? And like in our simulations, most of the time that's what's gonna happen. But like the let's say if 60% of the time you get your loan back with interest and the other 40% is defaults, like the way you think of the defaults is the way it's it will depend like how you think about protocols. So like we kind of say it's kind of like a limit order. So in a ways, let's say for example you're talking about real yield on your protocol with DeFi Alpha, and a lot of DAOs are going to want these protocols on the treasury to get passive income and revenue for the protocol, like that give back revenue. Let's say GMX, Umami, CVX. So like worst case scenario, like someone defaults, you make a lending market for let's say CVX. So they default, they take the stable coins, right? But now you have like X amount of CVX now that your protocol owns, and that's now protocol and liquidity. You own that CVX, and so you can use our protocol in a way on mainnet or on Arbitrum to accumulate assets that you think are like really good for your treasury, and you can set up the pools. So like let's say worst case scenario they default and like damn the market went down of 40%. Well, like now you have your protocol needs CVX or Frax or Curve or Umami for long term. Now you have that in your protocol, and now you can use that to the way that it would benefit your protocol, if that makes sense. So like, so yeah, like I get your concern, but like it depends on the way you think about it and the way you customize the pool, because like you could use the pool and like even the worst case scenarios to benefit your protocol in one way or another.
Got it. Yeah, I definitely like the full flexibility of it, and I love that it's not the peer to pool model, like Dave was saying earlier, where it's more peer to peer. I think that unleashes like a brand new design space that really hasn't been explored yet.
No, yeah, like I think so as well. Like I'm like it seems extra complicated like right now, but like it's everything's gonna be simple once we launch. We're really lucky that we have like really good devs that's making the UI as simple and as like easy to comprehend as possible. But yeah, my bad. Basically took over this podcast and basically showed vendor for like the past 30 minutes.
No, dude, I love this.
Because it's interesting, and I think it's
Yeah.
actually great. I think it's a great content, and I know for sure that me personally, I've been following it on Twitter from a really early stage, because ever since I saw it on the YetiWap's description or something like that, I told myself, okay, I need to know what's going on, because really Yeti, I see him as an extremely smart, but also like he's not about chilling and whatever. He just likes CRV and CVX, and I've been following him for a long while on my normal account, and definitely was interesting to me. And I think you gave some very articulate explanations on how the protocol is going to work, and I think it's great.
Yeah, man. I think honestly, this DeFi happy hour is meant for things like this, right? It's just for like-minded people to come together and just riff on stuff. Like, this week it just happens to be, vendor, but next week, it could be a completely different project, and we just kind of talk about it openly with other people in the space.
Sure. Can I also ask what you guys think about all the Tornado Cash issue? And what are your thoughts about it, guys?
Tornado Cash. Yeah, I think like it's unprecedented that the government or the government went to sanction a smart contract or a piece of code. I think this is like the first time that this has ever happened, and I'm sure this will like go to courts, because previously it was like code is speech, and so it's interesting, like is now that like the U.S. government sanctioned a smart contract, like is a smart contract like a legally recognized person now, like a corporation, or is a smart contract like its own sovereign entity? It's like it raises like a bunch of questions. And I think it's definitely a real gut check for DeFi. And I saw a tweet. And I came up with this term a while ago too, like decentralized in name only. Like now we're gonna see like which protocols are like truly decentralized and which ones are decentralized in name only. And like it's now you're kind of starting to see the ramifications of this is like the rift between like, regulated DeFi and like real DeFi and like dark and like what I call like dark fi and privacy DeFi. Like you're gonna see this split, and the thing with like crypto is like things don't just move; they move quickly. And so I don't know. What do you guys think?
For me, like it definitely raises a lot of questions. Like one thing is that people should see is like, so like what happens to the USDC that's now blacklisted? Do they just keep the cash now as an example? And like one thing I find interesting is like the argument is like, oh, people use it to launder or to do criminal things. But like, yeah, but like you can still check statistics, and statistically cash is still king. Like cash is still like the number one way criminals still like launder and like do money, which is I found really interesting. But I can't wait to see like what's gonna happen. For me, it doesn't really make sense that they blacklist the protocol, because
Yeah,
like everything can have like good and bad sides.
I mean, yeah, it goes back to this like old narrative that's has been around since the beginning of crypto and Bitcoin with the Silk Road and crypto being used for illicit transactions, when like statistically like that's a very small percentage, but like the meme push by the mainstream media is that meme. And then it seems like the reason why this happened was because of all like of North Korea and like who got hacked by North Korea? It was Axie, and like it was like an action. It was an action against that. But like the thing is, like it's not like somebody could easily just like fork Tornado Cash and like create their new thing and whatnot. It's like when you make like laws and like rulings like this, it like really the people that it's trying to target, they find a way around. And then like the people that like the normal everyday people that like are using it for legitimate reasons, like they're the ones really hurt in the end. And so yeah, I don't know. Kiet, what do you think?
That's interesting. You're right. Like I mean, Tornado Cash can technically just fork themselves and call it like Typhoon Dollars, and then they can be able, they can just run it again, just run it back turbo. But the whole arresting the dev in Amsterdam, like
that's
that
terrifying.
is what that was surprising to me, that they actually put boots on the ground and actually prosecuted the creators. Like I don't know if you guys remember back in 2018 or so when the guy that founded Ether Delta got a fine from the SEC. It was like a tiny fine. It was like 200K or something. And I was like, oh, okay, that is like a really slap on the wrist, right? It's kind of enough to show people that, hey, we will come after you, and that code is not.
Didn't he get like straight up arrested and like is being tried? You're talking about Virgil, right? The dev that went to North Korea to like give a presentation.
No.
Are you talking about someone else?
No, this was Ether Delta.
Ether Delta. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think the name's Colin something, I don't remember, but it was like a very minor kind of punishment. So when I heard this one where they're actually outright getting like jailed or restrained by the Amsterdam police or whatnot, like that is shocking to me. Like that was not okay. Sanctioning something, okay, that's just institutions doing things to, theoretically another institution, but to actually go after someone individually, I think that kind of crosses the line.
Yeah, and personally, I think it's about scaring. Simply, it's about scaring the people, because, like Dave, you mentioned earlier, like that the North Korea issue and whatever. So, is it really the reason, or is it just the excuse for whoever's putting up with these sanctions and regulations to be able to actually control other things, which are actually very different, and they are every normal day stuff. For example, privacy, like big accounts why do these people need to know that everyone can know every financial act that they ever do? Like, privacy is a right. It's not about it's not nothing. And they want to keep, in my opinion, they want to create this precedent of like, oh no, not in our school. And I think it's important for us. And I think that, like you said, DeFi will split. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But there will always be these guys that will say, no, this is our school now, this is our playground, and whatever you're going to do, we're going to fork and code again, because you can't stop us now. Because this is what this generation is about. And it's fascinating to watch. Fascinating.
Yeah, we're basically at this point where, with this technology, like blockchain, it's a tool. It can, we can decide which path it can go on. It can either, liberate, or it can enslave. And if everything is, completely transparent and like everything, like you kind of get sometimes, if everything is transparent, like I guess this is an example that just like came in my head. Remember with Constitution DAO, when they raised money and they basically had their bid public, of how much they were gonna bid on the transaction. I mean, on the Constitution, and the guy Ken Griffin from Citadel saw it. And he was like, "Oh, I see. They have $35 million. I'm just gonna get $40 million, and and win this auction." And like right off the bat, Ken Griffin, his bid was like 20 million, and the Constitution DAO, I'm sure they're like, oh shit. And so the reason, the fact that the donations were public and their address was public was the reason why they lost, the Constitution DAO lost. So there are absolutely, and that's just one example. There are absolutely legitimate reasons why whether you're an individual or a corporation or any type of entity or party, that you want privacy and you don't want to show your cards. And if we require people to show their cards all the time, you kind of have this, you don't have a healthy society, because people are just people feel like they're being watched. It's the panopticon basically. And so I think it's important to get this privacy meme out there, and just privacy is for everyday citizens too. And it'll take some time, because it's very easy to demonize and be oh, I have nothing to hide in this and that. But everybody has their secrets. Everybody has a right to privacy. And it's just important to get that meme out there, because it's going to be important now, because what we do in the next 5-10 years will determine the next 100 or 500 years.
I think it's important to understand that this is a validation for Tornado Cash, that it worked too well, and that the government was really left with no other option but to sanction the addresses. Because if there was a way for the government to have some sort of surveillance capabilities to understand the money coming in and out, they wouldn't have to sanction the entire protocol. That would seem too much. But because it works so well, and because technology is so developed, there's no way for them to figure out who's a good actor and who's a bad actor. And I think the worrying thing for the government is that what may have started as 100% good actors was slowly becoming more and more of this after every hack. I mean, what happens? People swap it to 100 ETH, 10 ETH transactions, and then just dump it into Tornado Cash.
I wonder if there are other ways where because we obviously want to stop bad actors and actors that steal hundreds of millions of dollars. Were there any alternatives or options out there for at the government's disposal to go after them, or I don't, you know what I mean? It's were there better, is there better, like I said, better options than doing a blanket sanction on a protocol, and you see the collateral damage from that.
Well, most of the compliance and AML stuff happens at the junction where crypto hits a centralized exchange, right? So where it transmits back into the money system, because moving money through crypto it's just like one part of it, right? You then have to layer it, and you also have to figure out how to disperse the money in a way which makes it seem as if it's a normal business transaction. So, in this case, even though Tornado is a tool, it was just working too well. Where if Vitalik is putting in 100 ETH amounts into Tornado Cash and then donating it to charity, there's no way for the government to differentiate that versus North Koreans, and I think that was probably what was worrying for them. But from like a surveillance thing, I mean, it is a bit worrying to kind of the, this isn't anything new. I mean, like pretty much every single financial transaction that you make on a daily basis is tracked either by your bank or by the government in some respect, especially if it's going offshore, or the institution that you're using that's providing the service. So if you're using like, I don't know, even Google or something like that, is probably has some sort of access to your financial transactions in some respect. So, this surveillance economy is nothing new.
Yeah,
I guess it's just
it's not just at a financial level; it's at a personal level as well. I mean, there's financial intermediaries, but there's also these like social media intermediaries. Like, look, we're on Twitter right now, and they're definitely like tracking our data. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's like all these services we use that track our data, and they're opaque, and they're keeping track of all our little movements, and it's just like it's kind of ironic that like we're all here talking about it. Like, I mean, this is where we can like discuss it and stuff, but like at the same time, we're at like the mercy of intermediaries.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about breaking or about understanding the links. I mean, I'm not so worried about the government's always going to do its own thing to have a clear view of financial transactions. I mean, the thing that worries me the most is just the relationships between the government and private industry, essentially like Google and Facebook and pretty much any other partner that's collecting data about how they share that data with different departments of the government, with or without our consent, and then what's done with that, because that's a really powerful and potentially dangerous avenue that you go down, because of course the government's going to do what it has intelligence gathering operations against people, like the United States captures people outside the United States, and pretty much every other government does as well too. But at the same time, it's more about what's happening internally and how that data is being used, and whether it leads to like this thing that's happened with the developer Alexei, who was essentially like rolled up and arrested for publishing code. I mean, but again, like we don't know the whole story about what what he was doing, or what sort of communications they had. Like obviously he was Russian, which makes it like from the get-go he's already in the shit list on the European and United States side. So I think it's just too early to tell about like his situation, because the government's not going to release all the information about his detainment until they bring their case. But it is a worrying sign.
Yeah. Kiet, what happened to you? You're a listener.
He just did the peace sign, so I think he may have to leave.
Yeah. Do you guys want to wrap up? And like we can like, hey, we can make this like a weekly thing, or like whenever we can. Actually, somebody is like raising their hand in the audience. Do you guys want to bring someone on?
Yeah, we can let's just bring people up. And,
sure.
Okay,
we'll go from here.
I can see that also Kiet wrote that he has some stuff to do, but for me, I can go for a little more if you want, whenever, and especially if there are people listening that want to come up and talk, I think it will be great.
Yeah, hey, welcome to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Appreciate putting all this together. I think one of the things that just comes to mind for me about with Tornado and everything, it's just what is kind of upsetting is the way that it's given such priority when these settlements will come through. HSBC has been laundering money, and they'll just pay a fine for it. Like, I think that many of us would be very okay with like, can we reduce the amount that people are getting scammed and people are getting rugged? And can we also hold to account some of these larger known players that have definitely admitted to laundering lots of Mexican drug cartel money, if in some way there was like a proportional sanctioning of sorts, I think folks would be a little bit not necessarily okay with it, but it wouldn't seem like it's such a targeted attack upon people writing code, this individual person, et cetera, et cetera. I may be somewhat alone in this, but it does stand out to me as like, well, this is just cost of doing business if you pay a large enough fine. But over here, we're going to shut down. We're really just going to go way beyond an overkill. And I think that we're kind of like, what the heck? I thought that, it just doesn't seem to add up necessarily. So those are just some of my thoughts.
I think from the
No,
institution, I mean, the institutions themselves like build compliance departments simply to handle these functions, that they stay, that they can, skirt the rules or stay in these gray areas. They work with the regulators to write the rules, and they employ many, many hundreds of people within compliance and AML departments, or whatever kind of departments they need to then be able to justify through bureaucratic means of the business that they're doing. But that's a little bit different than what's happening here with the tornado, where here we have a technological tool which is deployed and just out there, and it's just, I think it just must be very frustrating for the government to like see this one tool every time hundreds of millions of dollars is being stolen from people as the primary venue for where all that money's going and where it sits, right? Because it just doesn't go in and out, right? It goes and it sits for a long time until the person's ready to take it out. So if, sure, it's heavy-handed, but I'm sure they probably thought that, this is the best way that we can do it, because if we shut down this, then, there's not really any other, like, there's not a good option if Tornado Cash is shut down. Like, where are these criminals going to go now that Tornado Cash is shut down? I think with the latest hack, they took $500K from Curve and they put it through into Lightning Network.
No, it was like Fixed Float, and then Fixed Float.
Yeah, Fixed Float.
Paused it.
But Fixed Float is not able to accept $600 million worth of ETH in one go, right? It's it's going to take time for someone to figure out how to offload that much Ethereum. It's not, yeah.
It's very fair. That's very fair of you, and I do appreciate that there is a difference. I just think that the having a lot of people that can help you push things into the appropriate packaging for compliance, totally understandable. I think that what I was trying to describe, and I maybe did this unclearly, was simply the difference between the sort of like nascent technology and like what would be necessary for compliance, and giving sort of an opportunity for that to happen, as opposed to simply coming in and just everything in totality is shut down, blacklists, and like it's just like propagating outward from there. I do appreciate that you're giving a fair shake to some of these other pieces that can get through compliance. I just think that it doesn't come across as an attempt in good faith to minimize the criminality, but rather to use that as the reason to minimize the ability to have access to this tool, which I think is where we would maybe align again, which is like, it's just a tool. There are ways to use it positively, to do donations anonymously, etc. There are obviously ways to use it for criminal activity, etc. And I'm not opposed to like eliminating the criminal stuff. It just doesn't strike me as like an attempt to do just that, but rather to use that to do many other things. Now, I definitely could be wrong about that, but it is, and I'm totally willing to be educated about that. But that is how it strikes me at first.
Yeah, what this came about. Yeah, go ahead, Ale.
I would just like, I just want to say, like me personally, I understand what you mean. Like, I'm glad that we brought you up to speak about that. Like, I understand where you're coming from. One thing I just wanted to point out to you guys is that, at least, like, I would say is like, it's kind of heavy-handed. It is kind of lazy, because I don't know if you guys remember, but Zach XBT, I think that was his name. He was like, maybe he has like one or two interns, but he was able to track like transactions, he's still able to track transactions through Tornado Cash and still link it to its original wallet. And I'm pretty sure if a man of like one person or two, three people is able to track things to an Tornado Cash, I'm pretty sure the government should be able to do it as well. So I am, in like my opinion, is like them blacklisting it entirely is just kind of laziness, because it is ridiculous in a sense. The power of the government, any government, can I get a team of like 10 people in order to do it? How can Zach from a crypto native do it with maybe 1 to 3 people, and them with all the power and people that they can't even track like one transaction through Tornado Cash? That's at least like my take.
Well, I mean, remember, Tornado Cash relies on the anonymity set. So, like, the length of time that you keep. So, if somebody like puts money in Tornado Cash and takes it out right away, I mean, it's there's not going to be much privacy there. But like, let's say you take some ETH and you deposit it in there and you like leave it for like a year or 2 years or 3 or 5. Like at that point, the anonymity set between you and everybody else that deposited and withdrew during that time period makes it almost impossible to determine where and when you put it in from a public standpoint. So, like Tornado Cash works too well. Like it really does work too well. I would, it's interesting to see that most of the pushback from the Tornado Cash is coming from the builder side, because I think from the development standpoint, there's I guess. There's a lot more worried sense about what's going to happen. Again, you've seen developers being arrested. Like, what's going to happen to the protocols that we're building? You're not really seeing too much pushback from the institutional side because, as an institutional entity, you're required to operate within these sanction standards, and you're more thinking about your returns and about the safety of the funds that you're managing. And I'm pretty sure that pretty much every institutional player that's investing in the DeFi now is using some form of sanctions and compliance tools inside of. If they're using Ethereum, they're probably using MetaMask Institutional, which has built-in compliance. You can essentially any pool that you put money into, like Uniswap V3 pool or Aave or anything else, and you can get a compliance report on every single liquidity position that you're putting money into to understand what's the risk to me as an institutional investor for putting money into here. And so I think that as we go forward, there's going to be much more pushback from the builders, but you'll see institutional investors, which are the next wave, right? They're the ones who are going to be bringing billions of dollars. They're essentially, by the rules that they operate in, they're going to have to demand this sort of compliance regime that's going to exist.
I agree, and I think that exactly that's like Dave said earlier. Also, like DeFi is gonna in a way split, because some actors will only be willing to play one way, and others will only be willing to play another way, and it will create a very interesting combination of possibilities.
Yeah, the surveillance part of it is really worrying. I mean, you should push back. I mean, that's something you can push back, both on the, who you do business with, and then also who, it's incredibly hard to break away from Google and these other centralized providers, but it's doable. I mean, in crypto, you can switch out your RPC to something like Pocket, or, you can run your own node. I mean, for so long, people said you don't need to run your own ETH node, but, we're seeing today that you probably should have your own ETH node that you run, on on a Raspberry inside your house. So I think this is going to be a wake up call for a lot of people, both inside the United States and outside the United States, about the coming compliance regime.
Yeah, I heard another thing that I think actually puts, in my understanding, Frax in a better position than Maker with DAI, that the collateral, the USDC that serves as collateral for minting DAI sits in specific pools, and with Frax, to my understanding, it's like all mixed up. So what do you guys maybe think about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, Sam's talked really extensively about this. That that I think something like 80% of all the collateral or 90% of all the collateral that we're holding is out and in liquidity pools are being lent out, or it's not in one centralized address. Like if they were going to have to ban Frax, they'd have to like if they wanted to have a total ban on Frax, they'd have to ban everything, right? They'd have to go to every single liquidity pool, every single curve pool, Uniswap pool, Aave, pretty much everywhere to shut down Frax, and that would essentially destroy DeFi as a whole. So I think the bet is, at least that we think at Frax, is that there's just so much more at stake if they wanted to shut down Frax, because assume that they, let's just assume they came in and bricked or added all of Frax's core contracts to a sanctions list. Like you would be able to take your Frax and go to Curve, where most of the liquidity is, and dump it into the Curve pool and take your USDC back. And because there's so little USDC held by the core Curve or core Frax contracts, I think there'd be an orderly exit outside of Frax in case that happened. But God willing, it doesn't. So, but I think that these are two different things, right? So by putting your money into Frax, you're not obfuscating the entry and exit points of the money that you have. There's clear delineation in the transactions, and there's nothing being hidden or mixed or anything by using the Frax protocol.
Yeah, nice.
I will say I'm a big fan of the Frax team and everything Frax is putting together. It's actually kind of amazing and incredible to see. I'm in the Telegram groups and I try to follow as best I can. But anybody in DeFi knows it's impossible to follow more than one thing with any sort of depth. But I really do. I'm impressed by you guys and the team and everything. I'm actually going to head out. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and it's been a pleasure to talk to all of you. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, this is probably a good place to wrap up, unless you have some other stuff. I think it's been a really nice Twitter space. We're going to have to do more of these. I know we have a lot more to talk about, and we can definitely get some more guests on into the future. So thank you, everybody.
Sure, I know I'm already up to. I'm very interested in talking to Lanero that's watching, that's listening now in the future. Definitely someone that I've started reading his tweets lately, and I'm fascinated with his understanding of the space.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming up and listening in, and we'll be back soon with another Twitter Spaces, hopefully between the two of us. So thank you, and we'll see you again next time.
Goodbye.